Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from central British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world, they say, oh, we know where Canada is, in British Columbia on the west coast, right? Right. And we have a big city there called Vancouver. And where are you, John? Being me, I say we are 500 miles or 800 kilometers for our European friends north of Vancouver. Today we have a very, very interesting guest. His name is Stanley Bronstein. Do I say that correctly, Stanley? Your last name?
Close enough. It's close enough. It's Bronstein, but that's fine.
Okay. Is Stanley Bronstein. Stanley is an attorney, a CPA, certified professional accountant as well, life coach, a multi-book author. I believe you have done about 10 books of different descriptions. We'll talk about that. An author focused on two big missions: helping people reach their maximum potential and helping those who need it. I like all of that. To lose weight permanently through healthy, sustainable lifestyle changes without drugs and surgery. I like all of that. And then the other part is very interesting about Stan. He lost over 220 pounds, going from 367 pounds to 140, and has maintained a transformation for nearly 17 years. Amazing, Stan. So that all being said then, welcome to the show, Stan. Tell us about your past. How did it all start? Where did you begin? And then take us forward from there.
I'll give you the beginning.
Okay.
My mother died when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And it's looking back at it in retrospect, my mother knew she was dying from the minute I was born. You could tell, because she pushed me, fed me books, fed me knowledge, and she did as much as she could while she could. So she died, and needless to say, that messed with my head. And there I was living with my massively obese father, who was, I don't know the exact weight, probably good 350 pounds, living with him. And we both just ate ourselves into oblivion. And if you look at my pictures from that time on, I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know how most men say, yeah, right here. I even have it right here.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I have lots of pictures. I've got lots of stuff. So
yeah,
that was 367 when I was there, and I just basically, I was a mess, but I was successful business wise. I had a successful career. I did very well. Did well in school. Everything there turned out great. Along the way, many times I would lose weight for a while. I had one time I lost, my senior year in college, I lost like 75, 80 pounds. Then I put it all back on. Then I had other times I lost weight, I put it all back on, which taught me something, which is right here. Temporary changes are going to give you temporary results. Permanent changes are going to give you permanent results. The problem was I would make changes, but they were temporary. I would stop doing what I was doing. I'd go right back to my old habits. Weight would come right back on, and it would get even worse. Plus, to be honest with you, what I knew about nutrition I know so much more about nutrition now than I knew back then. I mean, what I thought was healthy eating back then, I would not call healthy eating today. I mean, I would not. And we'll get into that, a little bit later as we move on.
And I like that.
So as when I was like 28 or so, I was working with one of my older brothers. I was already a CPA as a certified public accountant in the US. Canada, you call them chartered accountants. Europe calls them chartered accountants. So similar thing. And we got in an argument one day. And in the middle of the argument, he's screaming at me. He says, "You ought to go to law school." And I said, you know, you're absolutely right.
So
And I
you
went to
did.
law school. So yes, so showed him, didn't I? So the moral of that story is you can be arguing with someone who's totally full of crap, which he was. You should still listen to what they're saying because some words of wisdom may accidentally come out of their mouth.
I
You know,
agree.
so he gave me some good advice, and it changed my life. No doubt about it. So
And you're
thank
still
you.
good friends.
Yeah, we get along. Yes, we get along better now than we did then. Actually, um, he's mellowed, as
Yes.
I can say.
And you have
So
matured.
yes, yeah, absolutely. We're both different people.
Yeah.
So I went to law school. Again, my senior year in law school, I don't know, my last year in law school, I don't know what it is about my last year in school, but I lost weight again. I lost 100 pounds. And I did it with Weight Watchers. And I learned some interesting things. I still, again, I don't think that was a healthy way to eat either because I was eating all those processed frozen meals. And basically, what I was doing was I was getting portion control. That's what I was getting. I wasn't necessarily eating healthy food, but I was eating less. And one of the issues I had at that time was I used to get up in the middle of the night and eat full meals in the middle of the night. And I did something, I learned something that broke me from that habit. I'd get up in the middle of the night to go eat. I would go to the freezer. I would pull one of those frozen dinners out of the freezer. I would look at the picture on the box. I would imagine what it tasted like because I'd eaten so many of them. I knew exactly what it tasted like. And I said, that was delicious. And then I put it back in the freezer and I went to sleep. So,
You
so
didn't eat it.
no, I didn't eat it. So what that did was I wound up putting my weight back on, but I only put on 60 pounds of it back on. 40 pounds of it stayed off because I stopped eating those meals late at night. So that was a permanent change. That was one permanent change that got me some permanent results. But anyway, when I lost that weight, I got small enough to where I was able to start dating. Women were interested in looking at me. So I wound up getting married to a woman I'm still married to today. And we, so I'm going along as I was approaching 50 years old, 4 months away from my 50th birthday. That's a key age for a lot of people, a lot of men. You know, you're thinking about where you are, what you've done in your life, where you're going, that type of thing. And I said to myself, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing? At the time, I was 320 pounds. I had not had a heart attack yet. I had not had a stroke yet. I was not on diabetes medication yet, but I probably should have been. I was not on high blood pressure medication yet, but I probably should have been. So I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing? And can you guess what the answer was?
Not good.
Dead.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be dead.
No.
So I said, I'm going to make some changes starting right now. I didn't say tomorrow, but it's interesting when I say that because it was actually February 1st when I started, almost exactly 17 years ago. Today's January 22nd. So it's almost exactly 17 years ago. I was going to start January 1, but like so many people, I put off my New Year's resolution. But the point is February 1. So what? I started at February 1 instead of January. It's not too late. The important part is you start and that you get going and you keep going. We're going to talk about that also. So I turned to my wife. I said, I'm cooked. I'm done. No more. I'm going to learn to start eating better right now. I'm going to start exercising every day if I physically can, because you know it hurts sometimes. I'm doing it every day, starting right now. And my exercise of choice is going to be walking. I picked walking because I figured it beats your body up less. You don't need special equipment. You can do it anywhere you want to go. I just figured it was easier. And little did I realize how prophetic my words were, and we'll get into that too as we're going on. So I turned to my wife and I said, I'm going to stop tolerating BS in my life. And the number one person I'm going to stop tolerating it from is myself. And the number two person is you. And I've already given you a clue. We're still married. But anyway, it gets even worse, the conversation. So I told her, I said, I'm going to make some changes in my life. You might like them and you might not like them. And whether or not you do, I don't care. I have to make these changes or I'm going to be dead. I'm going on a journey. I'm inviting you to come along with me. And I hope you come along with me. But if you don't, there's the door. You can walk out right now. I told her that. And as I like to say, I had a moment of healthy selfishness. There's healthy selfishness and most selfishness is bad. But that was healthy. I had to look out for myself. And she stuck with me.
She must have loved you, because in most cases she would have said, have a nice day, Stanley. I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, she stuck with me. And so, and she didn't stop. She didn't try to stop me from what I was doing. And first,
She agreed with you, Stanley.
On some level.
Yeah.
So on I did three things right away. First thing I did was I quit drinking alcohol. I used to drink scotch all the time. I won't say I was an alcoholic, but I will say I was drinking too much.
Scotch and water?
Just scotch.
Straight scotch.
Straight scotch.
Okay.
I will say I was drinking too much, and I will say that I was serving the scotch and it was not serving me.
Okay.
So I said, no more. Done, gone. Haven't had a drink quit right away. Haven't had a drink in 17 years. Don't miss it. And it makes going to parties much more interesting when you're the only one who's not drinking. You know, you can see everybody else's behavior. So then I said the soda pop, those 2-liter bottles, I used to drink 3 of those a day.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So I said, no more. I quit those. Haven't had one in 17 years. And I quit eating beef and pork, no red meat. And when you consider that my father was a butcher and I grew up in a house with unlimited free meat, for me to quit eating beef and pork, that was an interesting decision. But I quit that and I started walking. And by the time I hit my 50th birthday, 4 months later, I had lost about 50 pounds. And I kept going. But it was not a straight line. There were ups and downs. There were good days. There were bad days. But and I was not perfect. That's one thing I want to tell you. You don't have to be perfect. The important thing is that when you make a mistake, you learn from it and you keep going. Plain and simple, mistakes are proof that you're trying. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from it. So kept going. Then about 5 years into that, I had lost a little bit more weight. And I said, I'm ready to make another push.
How old were you then, Stan?
I guess 55.
Yeah, okay.
Or 54, something like that. I said, I want to take this a little further. So I quit eating chicken and turkey. Essentially, I went vegetarian. But I was still eating eggs and dairy. Lost more weight. Kept by walking, picked up. I was walking 10 miles a day, some days 15 miles a day. I mean, seriously, I had years where I walked over, several years where I walked over 5,000 miles a day. And I'm sorry, a year, 5,000 miles a year, not a day. But I got to a point where, after I did that about 5 years, I got to the point where my weight was still 180. So when you said that I kept it off for 17 years, really the whole process took like 10, 11 years. But I never put the weight back on. So the process took time. It wasn't that boom, 17 years ago, I all of a sudden lost it and boom, haven't gained an ounce. I'm just clarifying that.
Yeah.
So I was 180 pounds. My weight would go 180, 190, 200, 190, 180. Wasn't stable. I couldn't get it below 180. And this is while I was walking 10 to 15 miles every day. So I said, I must be doing something wrong. So I said, it's got to be something that I'm eating. So I analyzed it and I quit eating bread, butter, cheese, and ice cream. So essentially I went vegan. Bread, butter, cheese, and ice cream. Can you guess what happened? I lost 50 pounds in like 5 minutes. I mean, I melted. It came off so fast. And so the moral of that story is, what I learned from that is, you cannot exercise your way out of a poor diet. Diet is important. And I did that. I got my weight down, and I actually got down smaller than I am today because I sort of needed to get a lot of the fat off my body. And then I subsequently put about 15 pounds back on. It was muscle when I put it back on, but I had to do that. But
So you went down to as much as 140, right?
I was down to 130.
Yeah.
I actually had one morning I got on the scale, it said 128.
Yeah.
And I was gaunt.
Right.
I was but I needed to do that to get fat off of me. And then I put it back on. When I put it back on, I put it on as muscle. And I stabilized. So I've been living that way ever since. Now, I'm a pretty confident guy. My mother, when she was alive, raised me to be a confident person. And I've always been confident. I've had a very successful business career. But would you believe me if I told you the experience of losing all the weight I did and doing the amount of walking that I do, to give you an idea how much walking I do, since that day when I said walking is going to be my exercise of choice, this is how much walking I have done.
Wow.
72,000. I've gone 30% of the way to the moon in 17 years.
Unbelievable.
Just last year, at the age of 66, this is how much walking I did. Imagine I started in Los Angeles and I almost made it to London, but I got caught somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. That's how much walking I did at the age of 66. So the experience of losing the weight, being able to keep it off, and going from a person who had trouble walking 2 or 3 blocks to a person who does that much walking, it taught me 3 things. The first thing it taught me was I am more powerful than I ever imagined. Much more powerful than I ever imagined. It taught me to expand my limits and to think outside the box. Second thing was it made me question something. It made me say, if I could do all of this, what else is out there waiting for me to do that I'm capable of doing that I haven't done yet that I should do? And that's what I'm working on now. That's why I'm 66. I have no debts. I've got money in the bank. I could retire right now. But I've got stuff to do. I'm having a good time. I have things I want to do. I have people I want to help. I have a mission. I'm not stopping. I don't want to stop. I'm just getting started. But it made me question that. And then the third thing it taught me, and this is what's most important for your listeners. It taught me that if I am more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. We are all, each and every one of us, more powerful than we ever imagined. I am no more special than you. You are no more special than me. We are all special. You are more powerful than you ever imagined. Know that. Believe that. And
so which book is that? Is that this? I'm looking at your list of books.
Well, it's an idea that's echoed through many of them.
Okay. Okay.
And all the books. Well, we can talk about them. All the books They're all on my website, and they're all available digitally for free. And the reason why they are free, I am grateful for the life I have. I am grateful for what I have done. And I realize, I talked to somebody just the other day. He wants to lose weight. And he said, this coach said, I can help you. You need to pay me $8,000. And the guy said, I don't have $8,000. And the guy said, well, good luck. I wish you luck. Well, that's not the way I work. The way I work is, if you don't have $8,000 to pay me, here's all my books, here's all my information, here's all my videos. I recommend you watch them, learn from them, and I hope they will help you. My gift to you, because I am grateful for what I have.
And his gift to you, would be the most rewarding to you, that he would send you back a message 6 months from now, a year from now. He said, Stanley Bronstein, it worked.
I had that happen to me just right before Christmas.
Right.
I had one of the guys on one of my websites we're going to talk about is on weight loss, healthy weight loss, and he sent me an email. He said that he had kidney failure back in July, I think it was, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. And he was a mess. And I think he had a military background, and he said, I don't want to do all these drugs and everything. I want to learn to start doing better. So we started doing a lot of the things I advocate. He sent me an email right before Christmas. He said, I've lost like 50, 60 pounds. All my problems are under control. Everything's better. Thank you. I didn't make any money from him. I didn't get anything from him. But you know how good that made me feel?
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, money's important. I love money. We all do. But that's not what this is all about.
No.
The mission is more important than the money.
Exactly.
It is. And all the experiences I have been through, would you believe me if I told you I don't regret any of them? I mean, that's not to say I wouldn't do some things differently, because I would. But I don't regret what I went through, because it was necessary in order for me to learn what I have learned and to become the person I am today and to know what I know now.
At 66.
Yes, to help people. I'll give you an example. My father died when he was 85, and many years ago. And the last 10 years of his life, he couldn't walk very well. He had all kinds of issues. And if I knew then what I know now, I could have not only made those last 10 years of his life be much more comfortable and be much more healthy, I could have probably added 10 years to his life, because I would have put him on a whole food, plant-based diet. And the funny thing was, he would have eaten it. He wouldn't have complained a bit. If I would have filled his refrigerator with nothing but healthy food, and I said, this is what you eat, he'd have said, thank you. And he'd have ate what I gave him, and he wouldn't have complained a bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I know now. So the point is, I do not believe it is my obligation to help people. I believe I have no obligation to help others. I have no obligation to teach people what I know. It is my privilege to help people. It is my privilege to teach other people what I have learned. It is my privilege to help make the world a better place. I know we live in a crazy, mixed up world right now that is also the most incredible place you've ever seen, with the most incredible potential of any place you've ever seen. But it starts with each and every one of us as individuals. We need to get it together as individuals so that we can then collectively get it together. Getting it together as individuals, that's one of my books. That's called The Way of You. One of my books right there. Then getting it together as us, as groups. the way of us, building a community, putting it all together. But there's one thing to twist on that. I said several times, I said, we need to do these things. We don't need to do anything. We get to do these things. It's like, I don't need to help a homeless person when I see them on the street. I get to help the homeless person when I see them on the street. It is my privilege to help them. I am fortunate that I am in a position where I can help them. So I should do that. And can you imagine what the world would be like if we all started caring for each other just a little bit more and started helping each other just a little bit more? Oh, it would be wonderful. And that is one of the reasons I'm so careful about what I eat and so careful about what I do, because I want to live a very long, very healthy life, because I believe that all these things are in the process of happening.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, Stanley, just a little bit of background on me is I'm a little bit older than you are. I just turned 85 about a month ago. I call it 85 years young. And so the story behind me, I was born in northeastern Holland in 1940. November the 1st, at the beginning of the Second World War. My mom and dad got married in 1938. They were in love. My dad worked in a little lumber mill, and they rented a small duplex, and they were in love. And, and then what happened is very quickly they had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And then my early 1940, my mom was pregnant with me. And then what happened in 1939, a dictator called Adolf Hitler decided that Poland should be part of Germany. And it was obvious he wouldn't stop there, that Western Europe was the next step beyond that. And so my dad then was called into the Dutch army in April of 1940. And the last time somebody saw him was just before the bombing of Rotterdam in early 1940, when Hitler decided that Holland didn't capitulate quick enough for his liking. So he bombed this amazing city in the center of it, and thousands of people died. For 5 years, they wouldn't know if he lived or died. And so the first thing that I remember, born then in November of 1940, was Allied bombers overhead that were bombing German infrastructure for the war machine, in particular the part that touched on the North Sea and northeastern or northwestern Germany, and we were 10-15 minutes from the border. My mom would take us outside, and in the distance we saw the cities burning, like Hamburg, Bremerhaven, Wilhelmshaven, and on and on and on, Kiel, and all those places in the distance. The reason she felt safer outside than inside. And so the sound of hundreds of bombers overhead, even now 83 years later, I can still hear it. I will never hear it again. And the next thing that I remember is then 1944 was the hunger winter in northern Holland, or in Holland. He cut off all the food, and I remember going with my brother, my sister, every morning. We would go in the railroad yards and pick up anything edible and burnable. And then the winter of 1944-45 was the coldest on record in Holland. And we had this little room within our house that we heated, so it's very hot in the little area and very cold at the other. So I can still, even now, feel the hunger is still part of me, and I can feel the cold, the immense cold as well. And then, so it was a period that has always stayed with me. And so the next thing that I remember seeing far too much that we should not have seen in the latter part of 1940-45 in that area, but in particular 43-44, is dragging people out of their houses into Germany, and we had a city, especially in northeastern Holland, that 10, 15 minutes from the border, and they would take them into Germany, never to come back and work camp. Or we had quite a Jewish population within our city that were dragged into concentration camps, and 6 million of them, the Jews, were killed and murdered in the war, and 60 million people died during the Second World War. And I believe all things that are very important to know. History has a tendency of repeating itself, and that's what scares me. The other part about it was that on April Day, obviously in June of 1944, the Allied forces, the United States, the UK, and Canada landed on the beaches of Normandy at great cost and made their way in to liberate Europe, Western Europe in particular. And the US went east and south. The Canadians went north through France, Belgium, through the northern part of Holland. And I remember that well. They were pushing the Germans back into Germany. And as I said, we were only 10, 15 minutes from the border. We were liberated April the 12th, 1945, by the Canadian Army. It made such an impression on me, this little 5-year-old, that I knew once I grew up I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada, and I did. And so it always stayed with me. PTSD is still very much part of my life, even still now. The inner child and all those things were all still part of me and who I was. And then that takes me further. My dad did come back, and I already was 5 after the liberation. I always remember this guy. I had no idea who he was. I had no connection with him. Had his helmet with him with a bullet through it, hole through it, that missed his head marginally. And so he was never the same. Was very successful, never talked about it, developed alcohol issues, became part of it, and always was part of it. And so, so it became very, very difficult. But then taking me forward into Canada, I wanted to go to, academically I was not a success story. I failed grade 3, failed grade 7 3 times. And they said, what are you going to do with this guy? Well, maybe some people said, send him to the mentally challenged school. He said, no, we're not going to do that. And so make him a furniture maker. So that's what I did. And at 12 years old, they sent me to a furniture factory, and I loved it. But my dream was still to go to the land of my heroes, Canada, in particular Western Canada, where all the trees are, and build a lumber mill. I did that in 1965, and so started with nothing. Left Holland with a suitcase, 2 books, 3 sets of clothes, and very little money. Flew into Montreal, took the train across Canada from Montreal to Vancouver, 4 days, 5 nights. My God, that is a long way. And so when I came to Vancouver, couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job. Went to the immigration department. Fortunately, it was a German fellow there. I said, I want to build a lumber mill. He said, go to northern BC. That's where the building mills and all those things, that's where I am today.
It's
still here
beautiful.
today, although I do a lot of business in North
there.
America. So I can still see where the Greyhound station used to be here. And I came off the bus here July 1965. I had my suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47. But what I did have, lots of attitude. I've always been positive. No matter what, if you're negative, stay away from me. Passion, whatever I do, I give it 125%. Work ethic, even now, I work harder than anybody. Attitude, passion, work ethic. And then I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed and I always think I'm late. That being said, I became quite successful, but I was always conscientious about alcohol, that not being part of my life. Until the mid-90s, I had a girlfriend already, and I was in love with her, and so, but then was going through difficult times in business and other issues, and I started to drinking more than was good for me. I was not
Yes.
a raving alcoholic, but I was drinking, you may find this interesting, scotch and water.
But same realization I had. It was
so that's
it
what I
doesn't
did.
matter. It wasn't good for you.
And then in 1993, I was drinking more than was good for me. I was smoking a pipe, and I was also on prescribed medicine, Xanax, and for anxiety. And then she dumped me. And so, so then from that point forward, I knew, that I was going to stop, and so we still got back together again, and we got married. We still married now, all these many years later. But so I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking. I've drunk since. That must be 1993. It's 32 years ago or so. And then Xanax. The hardest thing for me to stop was Xanax.
I believe that.
And so,
I absolutely believe that.
but I did. And then from that point forward, I started to become more successful in that part. The next one that changed me is that it was in 2008 that I got a case of diverticulitis that nearly killed me. Actually, you have about it was. And for those people that are watching us from around the world, I'm not a doc or a medical guy, other than what I live. If it hurts on the right side, it's probably appendix potentially. And as I said, I'm not a doc. I'm simply talking from experience. On the left side, it could well be the colon or potentially diverticulitis. And so I waited too long, very painful. Got to the doc here, and he said, "Get to the hospital right away." And so they got an operation. They took 20 centimeters out of my colon. And the following morning, the doc came to me and he said, "You came this close." So now I'm coming to the point where we have a lot in common. So my wife is vegetarian. I was okay, but not as good as she was. I probably weighed about 220, 225 somewhere in that area. And so I knew I had to do a number of things. I had to, before that I was the same as everybody else. At the end of the year, say, I'm going to do this, that, blah, 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 and this. And I'm going to go to the gym, buy a membership, go to the gym, and then 2 weeks later, you can find 100 reasons as to why you're too busy to go to the gym. So I didn't. This time around, I knew I had to do that. The other part was very important. I became vegetarian. I call it 80-20. I'm probably 90-10 now, if not more than that. So is my wife. And so in going to the gym in 2009, out of shape really, but I got a trainer and worked with the trainer. And after I was there for 6 years training, and I'm already now vegetarian, I do all the shopping for my wife and myself. If I go to a grocery store, I shop in the grocery store on the inside, on the outside. So I don't go to the aisles. That's where all the protein or all the prepared foods are. That there's a lot of pre-prepared, and I don't know what is in it.
Also, garbage is.
Exactly. And so after 6 years, somebody came up to me in the gym and said, "Hey, John, have you ever thought about going to the gym to compete?" I said, "Me? Yeah." And so I thought, oh, that's a challenge. That's what I want to do. So I worked with my trainer on competing, bodybuilding and physique, and I did, and then competed in northern British Columbia. Came in second bodybuilding and third in physique in 2017, 2018. Qualified for the provincials, where I did the same, qualified for the nationals and the Arnolds. And now again, I'm training at 85 to go again compete when I'm 86 in the Arnolds and the Nationals. Picture of me, living young, dying old. And so what changed for me has been diet. I do not drink alcohol. The other part is I'm a vegetarian, don't do red meat, and all the same similar things as you do. And so does my wife. And then at the same time, the other part is that lifestyle has made all the difference for me. And obviously where I am today, I'm around, my weight is comfortably for me, I'm fairly muscled, obviously, around 200 pounds, 195 to 200 is the comfortable weight for me. And so I like that. At the same time, what I'm doing, coaching to the gym, I'm an author. I've worked on my 6th book. And you may find my 6th book that's coming out in June. As I looked at yours here, I'm writing a book. The title will be You Can.
Yeah.
And then the other part which I find unique in your case is just an observation I want to make. You are a very, very good communicator, and communication skills are critically important in life, not only in relationships, but also in all the other things that you do, may it be career or entrepreneurship, all those areas extremely important.
Thank you.
And so I just want to make that comment. And so for me, I wasn't. And up to the time that I was 90, I was okay interacting with 3 individuals in my mill. I have about 400 employees, 10 different companies, but I was not very good communicator until 1990. Then somebody said to me, I want you to go with me to Toastmasters. And I said,
I've been there too.
okay, there you go. So I said, what are they doing there? They said, oh, they're just interacting and it's all about communication skills. I said, are they asking me a question? No. I went down there, I sat down there in the group, and halfway during the meeting, they said, hey, John, tell us all about you. I said, oh my God, I'll never go back here. But I did. I stayed there for 10 years. I became a distinguished Toastmaster, all the way up the highest level, and that changed my life. And so I wrote a book about that part as well. This is one of my last ones, bestseller on Amazon. I call it $1 billion communication skills. The reason that these individuals are and were successful is not because of any other things. They were good or became good communicators. Communication skills, critical. And that's why I wrote this book. And how can you build a business empire? Enough, the power of words is critical. And so I wrote that book. And so if I look back to our similarities, Stanley, in a lot of ways, is that because of circumstances, trauma in a way, which is still with me from the Second World War, going through and then wanting to start from scratch, because who am I was always a challenge for me to find, and it took me well into my 62nd year until I was diagnosed with ADHD, that I knew dyslexia and ADHD was part of my life and still is today, and obviously, and that part, and then understanding communication skills, diet, and then the gym, it has changed my life to the extent that even now still at 85, after our podcast, I go to the gym 4 times a week, and I love it. And diet to me extremely important. Understanding my body is extremely important. And and my wife obviously is very, very good at all of this as well, and is a real help and support in those areas.
Yes, it's all, you're right about everything you say. What you have obviously figured out, and it's what I also figured out, people my age, I talked to Spike just yesterday talking about midlife. I think the term midlife in many ways for many people is garbage. It's, okay, I'm 66. Physically, I feel like I'm 30. I walked this much last year.
Amazing.
And am I in midlife or not?
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't think I am. But yet, if I'm not in midlife, that means I'm going to live to 132. Maybe if I've read I'm 66. And the answer is, I don't know.
And I say the same.
You know what I say? I say I'm going to live forever or die trying.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I say quality of life is the most important element at any age.
That is called health span.
Yeah.
That's the term for it, health span, not lifespan, health span. How long are you healthy? And I believe, and my older brother is 81 and he's vegan as well. And I see what he goes through. To me, nutrition, what was it? Let thy food be thy, let medicine be thy food, and let thy food be medicine, and medicine be thy food. Something like that. It is so important what you eat nutritionally. It really makes a difference. I mean, the energy level that I have is through the charts. I mean, I'm sitting here. I mean, they tell you to walk 10,000 steps a day. This is my step count today so far.
Yeah.
31,000 something. And I'm not finished yet.
Yeah.
You've got the energy. And that's what's so important. So,
and even at 85, Stanley, I feel the same as you do. And there's no reason that you and then it becomes a question of the interesting part that I find, and you made a comment on that as well. I've written all these books, I have all these different companies, and in some cases people say to me, how do you do all this stuff? I say ADHD, that's how I do it. But quality of life, the other part, diet, exercise, and understanding my body, critically important. And then the other thing is rewarding to me. I'm not doing this for the money for the same reason as you. I like to give back to others, and I'm a storyteller. I love to be, the other part very important to me is podcasting, so new relatively speaking, where as you and me are sitting here having this discussion, we never met before, we have so many things in common, and around the world people are watching us. I know they are, as you have a lot of exposure in podcasting that you do, or through your books and all the stories that you do. And for myself, I have well over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, probably another 1 million on another platform. There is no platform that can be more effective in terms of, for me to share with others and to say at the end, as you do in your book, you can too.
Yeah, agree.
And so it is all up here, understanding your body. Once you start the process and feel how rewarding it is, you will start to like it, as I do, in terms of I like my food and being cautious about my body. I love going to the gym, as you love to do the walking that you do. It's all part of your life, and at the end, the reward is quality of life.
Yes, and when I talk to people, they say, what you do sounds hard. They said, that's hard. And I go, no, what I do is easy. Walking around like this is hard.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is easy compared to that. So what I have identified, can we switch gears here a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's talk about other people, what they can do if they want to make changes in their life. I'm a systems thinker. My whole career, I've been paid a lot of money by clients to take complicated things and make them simple and get things done. So as I went through my process, I said, how can I simplify this and turn this into a system so that it can be replicated and used by others. Well, when I started out, the first thing I had to come to, the conclusion I had to come to was I had to stop being a perfectionist. I was a 367-pound perfectionist. I also known as a hypocrite. But I believed I had to be perfect and other people weren't as perfect as I was. Well, I came to a conclusion. The goal is not perfection. The goal is excellence.
Correct.
And the difference is when you're a perfectionist, if you don't make it all the way to the top, you failed.
Correct.
Oh, good. I'm what I call a good enoughist. If you did good enough, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
All
But
that matters.
excellence is not perfection.
No, it's not. And the beauty of excellence is no matter how good you are, you can always get better. There's always a level higher. There's always a level deeper. But you reward yourself and you praise yourself for excellence. So I came up with, I said, what are the qualities of an excellent human being? When I first started out, I came up with 14. Then I added one more, then I added 5 more. So I ended up with 20. Because every time I went through my list, I would come up with something I left off. So I turned it into this system called the Way of Excellence. If you see behind me on the wall, you can see I have a large chart of it on the wall. And this is on the website. So all of this is there. You can see that it's free. And you can see how everything's color-coded, everything lines up, everything matches. You can see how anal I am.
Yeah.
And in terms of, that's the accountant. So what are the qualities? First quality, they tell it like it is. They don't lie to themselves. They don't BS themselves. In my case, I said, if I don't change my life, I'm going to be dead. I was committing what I call slowicide.
Yeah.
I was slowly eating myself to death.
Yeah.
But then not only do they have to tell themselves the way it is, then you have to take action on it. Well, what does Tony Robbins say? Never leave the scene of a decision without taking action. So I started acting on it. I said, I'm going to start learning to eat better right now. I'm going to start exercising every day right now. Took action. Then I said, I'm going to put the long term ahead of the short term. I said, I'm going to stop worrying about short-term gratification. I'm going to stop going to Chinese buffets every day for lunch. I'm going to eat healthier foods because in the long run, those are better for me. So I started putting the long-term ahead of the short-term. I took personal responsibility. Then I embraced change. I stopped fearing it. I said, I need to make some changes. Good, let's go for it. I love change. Then I started focusing on the wonderful things that are possible that I could do. I started being positive, like you were talking about. Then I changed my perspective. Instead of saying, I have to get up and go exercise today, I have to eat better today, I started saying, I get to get up and exercise. I get to eat better today. It is my privilege. And you know who taught me that? A woman named Peggy Chun. I met her in 2007. She was an artist who lived in Honolulu, Hawaii. Peggy since passed away a long time ago, 2008, 2009. She was bedridden on a ventilator. She had Lou Gehrig's disease. She could not speak. She couldn't move. But trained people, they could hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements and she could spell out words. So that was how she communicated. And I interviewed her for a book I was writing. When I looked at her, I said to myself, if that's ever me, please take a pillow and put it over my head and take me out. Well, that's not what she said. This woman had the most incredible joy for life of anyone I've ever met. You know how they say you're lucky if you meet 1 or 2 people that you remember for the rest of your life? She's one of them. I will remember her for the rest of my life. So Peggy Chun, she said, my grandkids are coming over today. We're going to paint. They're going to take me in the car. We're going to go out into the park in the sun. It's a beautiful day. We're going to have fun today. I told her that I was getting ready to drive around the whole United States, interview 50 people for this book that I was writing. And she said, that sounds like so much fun. I wish I could go with you. So, you know the old saying, what would Jesus do? When I had mornings where I didn't want to get up and go walk, I said, what would Peggy Chun do? if she could? And the answer is Peggy Chun would have gotten her lazy butt out of bed and she'd have gone walking
Absolutely.
and smiling and happy to do it. So this woman who could not move at all was my role model to go move. Isn't that kind of funny?
Yeah.
How that works out. So I still remember that. Then, I started dreaming bigger dreams. I started learning to give instead of always wanting to receive. I started using my time, energy, and resources more wisely. Setting aside time every day toward my passions, my goals, the things that were important to me. I started taking action that was consistent with my goals. If I wanted to lose weight and I wanted to get in shape, then don't go to Chinese buffets. Don't drink alcohol. Don't drink soda. Don't do all this other garbage. Go walking. So I started taking actions that were consistent. Then I was persistent. Whenever I had days where I failed, I just picked myself back up and I hopped back on the wagon and I kept going. Be persistent. Never stop. Never stop. You know how people say they have animals that are their role model? This animal is my role model, the snail.
Yeah.
They are steady. They are persistent. They get where they're going no matter how long it takes. They just keep going, going, and going. That's my role model.
Yeah.
Then I learned, made sure all my actions were had integrity, that they were consistent with each other, that they were for good reasons, good purpose. I started being kinder to myself, started being kinder to other people. Then I started respecting other people more. I started respecting myself more. I used to complain that I wasn't getting the respect that I wanted from other people, all while I was weighing 367 pounds. I mean, I was showing them that on some level I didn't respect myself, and here I was expecting them to respect me. So, and lo and behold, when I started getting in shape, people started respecting me more. Then I learned to think win-win. I learned that in order for me to win, that doesn't mean you have to lose. It's possible for both of us to win, for all of us to win. Then I learned about creating balance in my life. Balance is not something you find, it's something you intentionally create. I started identifying everything in my life that was deficient, things like exercise, healthy food, and I started increasing it. More exercise, more healthy food. Then I identified everything that was excessive, drinking, eating crappy food, sitting on my butt, and I decreased it. That's what balance is. Increasing everything that's deficient, decreasing everything that's excessive. Then I came across what I call the 4 factors. Remember I told you I added 5 more parts to the system? Here's where they come in. This is the 4 factors, and I've got this. These are what's necessary for somebody to be successful in the long term. You can take everything I said up until now to heart, but if you don't have these 4 things, you're not going to be successful. First thing is willingness. You have to be willing to do what it takes for the rest of your life, for the rest of your hopefully very long, very healthy life. But you have to be willing to do it. If you're not willing, you're not going to get there. Then belief. I told everybody at the beginning of this podcast, you are more powerful than you ever imagined. Believe it. Start acting like you know that. That's one of the things I do. I teach people, I help people learn that they're more powerful than they ever imagined, and then I help them figure out what to do once they have that knowledge. And then discipline. And I don't mean punishment. I mean self-discipline. Identifying everything that's negative in your life, all your negative habits, and cutting them out. Me, going to Chinese buffets, no. Drinking alcohol, no. Drinking soda, no. Sitting on my butt, no. And then replacing them with positive habits. Eating healthy food for lunch, yes. I'm walking every day to get exercise, yes. Only drinking healthy stuff, yes. Only putting healthy foods in my body, yes. All those things. That's discipline. Discipline is so much better than motivation. Everybody talks about motivation. Motivation is horrible. If you wait for motivation, you may never get started. Motivation wears off. How many people, this is January 22nd, how many people joined the gym at the beginning of the year who've already stopped going? Or if they haven't stopped yet, are going to stop by March the 1st?
Yeah.
That's because they're not motivated. But if you build discipline, like I put my clothes out on the nightstand every night before I go to bed. I wake up, the first thing I do is I put those clothes on and I go stretch, and then boom, I'm walking every day. Discipline, my habit. I've been doing that every day for the last 8 years. And before that, I had 3 days where I was sick as a dog. I didn't walk those 3 days. And if you don't count those 3 days, you can add 4 more years of that. So in 12 years, I've missed 3 days, which tells you because of the health. And that also happens to correspond to when I turned vegetarian. When I started eating healthier, I stopped getting sick.
Yeah.
I didn't get sick.
Say, Stanley.
Yeah.
Get us your website where people get for free access to all your books and about all the lives that you have done and all the things that you have done for free. And it is amazing. And what I see with you in all the 4 areas in particular, the belief, excellence and commitment, and that even for the people watching us that believe in you, you can, and you can start slowly. Start making a commitment with a friend. Start to walk. That's the easiest.
The thing is you start and don't stop.
Don't stop. Be committed as you have, as I have, and it will change your life. And then Stanley at 66 years old, myself at 85, age is not the limit. It can well be the beginning for all those people watching us. Start now. Attitude, passion, work ethic, but will follow his success. And as Stanley said, make a commitment, stay the course.
If you're still alive and you're still breathing, it's not too late. The website is thewayofexcellence.com. It's all there for free. It's my gift to you. And there's a link at the bottom. If you want to email me, you can email me. If you want to work with me privately, I work with people privately. If you want to join a groups that I put together, I do that too, but those cost money. But if you want to download the stuff for free, do that. And there's also a link at the bottom to a sister website called the £1 Million Weight Loss Challenge. And the goal there is to get 50,000 or more people to lose 20 or more pounds each. That would be £1 million. And that website is free as well. It's got great information about healthy nutrition, healthy mindset, walking, other forms of exercise, great stuff. And now that website is slightly different. When you go to that website, you have to sign up and create an account. It's free, but you have to create the account. And the reason why I made it that way is I wanted to make a safe space for overweight people. I didn't want to create a website where just anybody could go on there and make fun of overweight people. I wanted to make it safe. So you have to sign up and you have to join, but that's why it's free. You do that. I'm here to help.
And for all those people around the world that after this podcast is over and they sit there discussing with others that watching it with them and trying to think about reasons as they why they can't, I say you can. Stanley does at 66 years old. I do at 85. It's all about quality of life. Make the commitment and do it. Can I? Absolutely, you can. I love it. Yeah. I love it, Stanley. An amazing podcast, Stanley. This one will be unedited. It will go out of the door within 2 hours for all the guests around the world. And amazing podcast. Let's make sure we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Stan.
Okay.
Bye-bye.